What is up, everyone? I am Chris Knight. You are watching The Real Review 3000 here with another episode of Movie Talk with Chris and Stig. I'm here, and right there is Stig. So let's talk about this. How you doing, Stig?
I'm doing quite well.
That's great. And we're talking Terminator 2 today. I hope you're excited for this because I sure am.
There's no stream but what we make for ourselves.
Ah, yes, indeed. Very good. I love the puns. I always love those. Do such a great job with that. All right. So Terminator 2, we talked a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger lately. I think we've talked Conan, talked Terminator, we've talked Predator. I think those are the last three we did, actually. Not in that order, but I think it was Predator, then Conan, then Terminator. Now we're on Terminator 2. So I think that this movie has the distinction of being one of the best sequels of all time. Not necessarily absolute, but it definitely ranks up there when you talk about sequels, don't you think?
Yeah, it's absolutely one of the best sequels.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's jump into this. Basically, this takes place in a logical succession to the first one. 11 years after. It happens in 95, so 84, 95, 11 years. John Connor is, he's been born, and now he's a young child, adolescent, whatever you want to say. And that's kind of where we start with this, if I remember right.
Well, we start with seeing the future first.
Well, that's true, yeah.
And you get to see old John Connor giving orders and stuff. But and then the Terminators arrive, and then we see John, I think. Mm-hmm. Or we see Sarah before that.
Do we see Sarah before that? I'm trying to remember.
No, she's after John, isn't she?
Yeah. I know that it takes a minute to get to Sarah, but so I was kind of confused at the beginning. I'm like, well, I saw her in the trailers. Where does she go at? Where is she? And as soon as she's brought in, she becomes a very integral part of this movie, but it takes a minute to get to her. I think if I remember right, we kind of just see, I think this is where John is.
He's living with his foster parents.
Yeah, he's living.
Played by Xander Berkeley and the lady who played Vasquez in Aliens.
Yes, exactly. Which I always love how
Cameron.
Thank you, James Cameron. I love how he does that. He uses the same people on a lot of his stuff. I think it's because he has a decent working relationship with them. Although there's some question to his on the set demeanor sometimes, I've heard, but directors have. Go ahead.
I saw an interview with Michael Biehn, and they asked him about that, and he said, "You just need to accept who he is on the set.
Exactly.
He means well, even if he's an asshole."
Well, and I think that's the thing. If you talk about directors, especially like Cameron and a few others, there's just a certain way that they direct, and there's a certain way that they found has gotten the results they wanted. And now my brain is totally out of it now, but the director of Blade Runner.
Yeah, Ridley Scott.
Yeah, Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott's another one of those guys. He has an absolute way he wants it, and if you don't give it to him that way, he'll do it. I think he's even said, "I'll do it my own damn self." Then, and I can't argue with the results of either of them, really, for the most part. I mean, they have some that are like, okay, but for the most part,
but both of them have made some really timeless, epic movies that are still great today.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about how the Terminators come into this. They do a really good job of selling this. If you've never seen this movie, please don't listen to this first. First, go watch it and then come back and watch this video if you've never seen this movie. They do a really good job of ambiguously introducing the two Terminators. or who you
Yeah.
think are the two Terminators. At first, you're not positive. The only one you know is a Terminator is Arnold, because we know him from the first one. But they picked a really good actor in Robert Patrick, because the way he comes into this, you might think that he's just a resistance fighter from the future.
Yeah, because he's not as big and bulky as Arnold is, and he resembles Kyle Reese a lot more.
He does. And the first time we get to really hear him or see him interact with people, he acts much more human, because I mean, it's his programming. They've really upgraded what this Terminator can do. He smiles. He talks to kids like not creepily. I mean, he just does a really good job of playing human. So when you first watched this, you probably thought, and I think if I remember right, I would honestly say I thought that he was the good guy.
Yeah. I went into it blindly. So I knew nothing except that it was a sequel to Terminator.
Yeah. Back then they did a really good job of nothing got out. And plus we didn't have the internet as prevalent. I think the internet was just starting. I mean, AOL, CompuServe, whatever, that was about all you had. But I don't remember really knowing much about this movie going into it. But I just remember that I thought that Arnold was still the bad guy. And we find out relatively quick. They don't take as long as in the first movie to get to it. You get to the scene with, I think, honestly, you might be right. I think it shows the Terminators. Then it goes to Sarah, and they're talking about releasing her. Dr. Silverman sits there and says, well, Sarah, we've talked about this. Now you say they don't exist and this and that. And she's like, yes, I know now that, they don't exist. And she says, he asks her, well, have you set some goals? And she said, yes. You said that if I got better, that I could see my son. And at which point he basically calls her out and says, well, you see, Sarah, the problem is I just don't really believe you. And she loses it.
Yeah. So he was right.
Yeah. And she basically says he's in danger. And that's when it switches to him.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, he's working on his, I want to say he's working on his,
it's like
his
a dirt bike.
Yeah. With his friend.
Yeah, and it's being disrespectful to his foster parents.
Which, I mean, he's a teenager. He's rebellious. That's no doubt. But he is a pretty mostly normal teenager. He does some stuff here later on, just a few minutes after this, So, he says, they're talking about taking out the trash or doing the dishes, something like that. And he basically blows them off. And he and his friend take off on this motorbike. At which point that's when that Robert Patrick shows up to their house and knocks on the door. And
he's being very clever because he asks where John is.
Yeah.
They said he just took off, and they ask if he's done anything wrong. He says no, he just wants to talk to him, and then he asks for a picture of John.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very clever, because then he
exactly. And it's just, again, this is so crazy when you think about it, because he's interacting with the foster parents like any police officer would.
Yeah.
Are you the parents of John Connor? I mean, just the way he sounds, it doesn't, because remember, are you Sarah Connor? I mean, the difference between the two, and it is perfectly casted. That's one thing you got to say about this movie, is when they got Robert Patrick, he was perfectly casted as the complete opposite of what the first movie had taught us about Terminators.
Yeah.
So right from the get-go, Cameron's playing us, and he knows he's playing us. there's just there's no way around it.
Well, there's the way Robert Patrick deals with the cop, though, early on.
That's true.
So he kind of, it looks like he stabs him, which we know later he does.
We don't know that, but you do. Going back, you can hear the sound of the blade. That's true, but I guess I could look past it and say I don't know for certain that everybody would handle it like Kyle Reese did, or he snuck around and perhaps he's been told that this is a situation where he has to do. I mean, I don't know. That is a very good point, but it's ambiguous enough still at that point that we're not positive.
Yeah,
because all we see is that he has a uniform on afterwards.
Yeah, and when John Connor is driving the dirt bike, Arnold spots him, starts following him.
Yep.
So he knows what John looks like.
Which is interesting because it makes you wonder. I mean, I guess that would be the thing that, John programmed him to come back and protect him. So he would know what he looked like, which is kind of funny because I don't know if he'd have any pictures of himself as a child to give and program the the Terminator with. But I guess that's an easy jump to make. That's how he did it. So there are hints, but it isn't until they get to the they're at the arcade. We see John, using tech gear to crack an ATM and stuff like this, showing that he's already proficient with the ideas of technology and things and how to take machines out and control machines.
He's basically a very skilled hacker.
Yes,
which makes sense because if he's the leader of a resistance that fights robots and AI, being a hacker is probably what you want to be.
Yeah. And let's talk about that for a second. I think that's probably one of the biggest disappointments with Terminator Salvation, which is they have other people doing stuff like that. And yet, if you go off of Terminator 2, he can do it himself, obviously. And if he's doing this at 11, I mean, God knows what is he doing at 35 and stuff. I mean, he should have just gotten exponentially better over the years.
Yeah, so the only hacking thing he does, I think, is he reprograms one of those motorcycle Terminators, which are stupid.
Yeah, yeah, but somebody else has to make the signal or whatever that he uploads to it, I think. And it's like he would have been able to do that himself, I would have thought. But yeah, I digress. So we see him do that. We see that he is a little hoodlum, but that's kind of just how his mom's raised him. We kind of now are gathering that, his mom has started to teach him how to be a survivor. He's scrappy. He does what he needs to do to, get by, all of that stuff. And they end up at an arcade. And this is where it's really, the T-1000 really shines here. Robert Patrick does a really good job because he interacts with the kids. Have you seen this kid? Yeah, I think he was back there. Thank you. I mean, he talks to these kids, and these kids don't even feel threatened.
Yeah, and as soon as he gets more information, though, he moves faster and faster. More determined.
As soon as he spots him. I mean, because he spots him in the back in this little cockpit thing, and his friend says, "Dude, there's a cop, better go." So he runs, and we now see that that Arnold is walking in the back halls, and he has a box, and I think it does look like a Rose's box, but you don't know what's in it. And so John runs. The officer comes up, and his friend has already been questioned by the T-1000 about where have you seen John? He had lied and said, "No, I don't know. I haven't seen him." And as soon as he says, "Hey, the kid you looked for, I think I saw him go that way," and the T-1000 just throws him, just pushes him aside. That right there is when I think you get more of an idea that he's not for the good, because he could have just walked around the kid. It's obvious he's set on John now, because that's how they're programmed.
It's exactly what Arnold does in the disco scene,
exactly,
to some extent in the first movie.
Exactly. So they go to the back halls, and he's running, and just as he's getting to these double doors, perfectly timed and beautifully shot, the doors fly open, and there's Arnold.
Yeah, and John is between two of them, and we don't know which one is the guy until Arnold says duck.
Yeah, so John comes, he sees Arnold. He's already been told by his mom, probably, I don't know, maybe described what he looked like. I don't know, because I don't think they got any pictures in '84, but whatever.
Yeah, plus Arnold brandishes his shotgun too.
Well, he sees him, he stops, he pulls out the gun, the flowers fall. There's a maintenance worker there getting a pop. The T-1000 comes around the corner, and then Arnold says duck. John ducks. The poor maintenance guy, just basically he's dead, because there's nothing, because the T-1000
just shoots through him, basically.
He doesn't even see him, because again, he's focused on one thing. Now he's also focused on the T-800, because he knows what he is, and now he knows that he's got to get rid of that first, just because of how the T-800 reacts to him. They have the firefight. I think, if I remember right, they then get into hand-to-hand combat, and John runs through the double doors and just runs.
Yeah, he gets into the parking lot, tries to start his dirt bike. He has trouble with it. T-1000 comes running at him.
Yeah,
John barely makes it out. T-1000 in Terminator style hijacks a truck.
Yeah, I remember the scene. They do the same. There's a lot of homages paid to the first one. First off, when they're fighting hand to hand, Arnold gets thrown through a plate glass window again in a department store, and has the same delayed reaction. It looks like he's knocked out, and then he kind of slowly turns his head back and gets up, just like he did in the first one. I liked the part where Robert Patrick looks, because by now we've seen him get shot, and we've seen that he can repair himself. So we now know that he's liquid metal. We don't know that yet, but we know that he's
not the same Terminator Arnold is.
Exactly. So when he looks at the mannequin that's silver and, looks like metal, that's really kind of a cool little, he looks at it like, what are you?
Yeah.
But yeah, so John runs out, gets on his dirt bike, can't start it immediately. This is really well shot by Cameron. I know how they do it. It's forced perspective, but if I remember right, in the behind the scenes, Robert Patrick, they said, was really fast anyways, especially in that police uniform. They said he was just absolutely crazy fast, and actually caught that bike once. So it's him, but it's done in a forced perspective, so he looks like he's right up against that bike as he's running. But they did say he stayed up with the bike quite a bit when he was running. So they reshot that scene several times, but it's shot really well, because it makes that Terminator look so fast.
Yeah, and Robert Patrick's head movements, he kind of scans.
Yes.
Moves his head from side to side. He based that on a bald eagle. The way a
Oh,
bald eagle moves his head when he's looking
interesting.
for, when it's perched and looking for food or whatever, it just does these scanning movements with the head.
Yeah, I think that that's fascinating. I mean, I love the way he played the T-1000. It was just perfect. So John gets away, and the T-1000 does, like you said, again, hearkening back to the first one. We see him get into a semi, which again, I can't remember this one. They don't run over a semi, do they? I think there was a deleted scene where they did the same thing again with the same toy truck that looks like that truck, but I can't remember for sure. I'd have to go back and look at all the different
I know they did
I
it
have.
in the first one.
Yeah, they did. And that's why I can't remember if they deleted it from the second one because he thought, oh, that'd be cool. And then he's like, there's no point in it. Because I think they said that I think he might have done it when he pulls up to John's foster parents' house. No, it doesn't matter. So he gets into the semi, starts taking off after John. By this time, Arnold's on his bike and chasing after John. They go into the drainage, canal. John gets caught by the T-800, at which point, I think he kind of understands that he's not going to hurt him, but he's still kind of freaking out. And the way that
there's the chase is actually quite good.
It is.
There's some very close crashes there with an obvious stuntman on the bike.
Yes,
but it's really well done. Remember when they used to do proper stunts? That was fun.
It was. No, this movie's again. There are certain movies back, especially right there in the 90s, the early 90s, even when they were starting to use CGI. I think this is the perfect example of how CGI should have stayed. When you need it, when you have no other way of doing it. I love the practical stunts that they still did then. They back when you could find a stunt double that looked like the guy, because the guy that was Arnold's stunt double had been a stunt double forever. It's been the same guy, and they work really well. They look pretty similar physique wise. I think their face is a little off, but that's okay.
CGI should be makeup for a movie, not Botox.
Exactly. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. So we get to the part where Arnold basically just grabs John off of his bike, if I remember right. Isn't that what he does?
Yeah. He just lifts him off,
lifts him up and puts him in front of him. And they start going. At this point, Arnold stops, and that's when the T-1000 jumps off of the upper level into the drainage area. And that scene was shot beautifully, slowed down.
That's before.
Is it? I thought it was.
Yeah. No, John Connor stops. Thinks he's gotten away, and then.
Yeah. That's right.
Because he's chasing John when Arnold spots him.
Yeah, that's right. And but I do like how that scene was shot. Basically that whole chase scene is just epic how they did it. And we get to the point where the T-1000 ends up wrecking into the pillar. The whole truck goes up and an explosion because there's a leak in the gas tank. Actually, Arnold doesn't even fire at it at this time. He's been firing at it throughout the whole time, but he actually doesn't. He pulls his gun out, and I love how he does his flip. And Arnold said that he practiced that because it just worked so well, being a sawed-off shotgun. He just flips it and reloads it. I thought that was so cool when I first saw it. I was like, that's
Yeah,
wow.
it actually makes a lot of difference. So, good thing he took the time to practice that.
Yeah, and so he did that. He cocks it. He watches as the wheel rolls out, and you don't understand yet why. Looking back on the movie, you know why he's looking at that wheel. He thinks it could be the T-1000. And when it turns out not to be that, he drives off, and the next thing you know, that's when we really see what the T-1000 really is. He comes out in his metallic form and walks, and that's when we first see the first full use of the CGI in this movie, which is a full transformation from the metal alloy to the police officer outfit in Robert Patrick.
Yeah.
What did you think the first time you? Oh yeah, no. What did you think the first time you saw that? What did you think?
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah,
because I had never seen anything like that before.
No, and I, yeah, I mean, I know that because of listening to commentary and behind the scenes and all that, the beginnings of this started with the Abyss and
the water creature.
The water creature, which was a very, very simplistic form of the CGI that they would then bring even more forward for T2. And I'm looking up something here. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. So so it evolved from the Abyss to Terminator 2. And again, to this day, I cannot say anything bad about that. It's still spot on.
Yeah.
The way, and again, there's a point there where that CGI no longer is taking place, and it's the actual actor. And I can't tell you where that line is drawn. Not to mention that Stan Winston, the creature effects artist, did work on this. He made some of the effects for the different stages of decay for Arnold, the different stages of damage to the T-1000. He did some of that. So some of it is live props, some of it's CGI, and some of it's the actor. So there's, again, the use of all the resources, not just CGI. And today, if this movie was made today, this movie would be so heavily saturated with CGI, I believe.
Yeah. Yes, it would be.
And I hate that, because this is a perfect example of how you can make a movie with CGI. And you really, I mean, yeah, we know where it's at. It's just, you can't really tell, though. You can't absolutely say that is CGI, because it's done so well.
Yeah, because if when they do CGI today, they're just, is it blue screen?
Pretty much.
So everything is CGI except for the actor, really.
Yeah, and yeah, again, that's not how you do it. But I digress again. So the next scene,
the Terminator drives away with John. Does the exposition. T-1000 is evil. It can transform itself into stabbing weapons and stuff. Can't form complicated machinery, though.
Yeah.
Which is a plot hole in Terminator 5, actually, when the T-1000 heals another Terminator by fixing him, by pouring liquid metal into him. That shouldn't work, because that's complicated machinery.
Yeah, I don't want to get into all that. I enjoy all of the Terminator movies for what they are, but yes, I totally agree. Along with like the Salvation part, where he's not nearly as technically proficient as I believe he should be. Yeah, there's a lot of issues. I just enjoy them for movies. I try to look past some of that stuff, but. Yeah. In this one, I think it's really funny because, they're stopped and he's like, hold on, time out. And he gets off and he's poking at the holes in the Terminator.
Yeah,
it's so funny. And I don't know how much of the behind the scenes stuff you've watched about this, but Edward Furlong and Arnold Schwarzenegger got together or got along just magnificently. The bond that they had on the set really does show through in the movie.
Yeah, they absolutely have chemistry.
Yeah, and I mean, it's sad what happened to Edward Furlong. You know, he kind of got dragged into drugs and all that. Just he completely took himself out of acting, even though he wasn't out of acting. He very much just took himself out of it with the things he did. He was even scheduled to be in Terminator 3, which I think if he had been in it, it might have worked a little better.
Yeah, to be fair though, I thought the guy in Terminator 3 was okay as well.
Yeah,
he also turned to drugs.
Yes, he did. Which they kind of say is the curse of playing John Connor. Something is always when Christian Bale played him, he had that blow up on the set that was recorded. I can't remember. The only one that we don't know yet is the guy that played him in Genesis. So I don't know. But when he gives the exposition, and then I believe the next go ahead.
It switches to Sarah because the police show up and they show pictures of Arnold and say, "Hey, we think your kid is in danger, and we know you know this guy." Yeah,
he says, "We know that you're mixed up with this guy somehow."
Yeah, because they have a description from him from '84.
Yeah, they show the pictures of 1984 from the police station. It says these were taken, blah 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 blah. They give the date, and then they said these were taken last night.
Yeah, and then Sarah just closes up. But
she goes basically what they would say is catatonic, and Silverman, the doctor, comes up and says, "Well, guys, I think that's about all you're going to get out of her today."
Yeah, and she takes a binders, I think.
She takes a paper clip.
Yeah,
there's a paper clip on some papers. She grabs it, and then they take her. Man, the part here where the orderly puts her in, then locks her down, and then licks her.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, geez.
Well,
you see, and the bad thing is they're out there, and you know that if they're into that they're going to be in those types of places where they can get their rocks off. So the sad thing is it's like, oh my God, there are people out there who really do this stuff.
Yeah, Kill Bill 1.
Oh yeah,
on that too.
Yeah.
Sorry, but poor choice of words.
Well, no, you're absolutely correct. And think about the thing we got this past year where the woman who is in a coma ended up having a child in a convalescent home because somebody in the staff had actually had sex with. I mean, again, just the sheer that scene really kind of, I won't say like sickens. I won't say it freaks me out. It just sickens me.
Yeah, it's a nasty scene. It really is.
And there's a lot of stuff cut out of this movie. If you ever get a chance to go look at the cut scenes, there's some stuff more interaction with the orderlies and a lot more of the hospital scenes that we don't see actually.
Yeah, there's the cut scene of Sarah having a dream about Louise.
And I have the director's cut that has that in it. I think it's absolutely should have been kept in.
Yeah, they cut it because of length.
Yeah,
because the movie was already kind of too long.
Yeah, and they already the point that Reese makes in the dream is reiterated later on. So you take the part out where the guy doesn't have much to do with what the movie is. So later on, when I think John is talking about it the same way.
Yeah.
they figure, okay, well, he's more important to this whole movie, so we're going to keep that part and we're going to get rid of this part because Reese is only in this one scene. So I understand why they cut it, but it's still, I think, really done well.
I saw an interview with Michael Biehn when he talked about that as well, and he was completely fine with it. He understood it.
Yeah,
it was for the betterment of the movie.
I think that's why Cameron works with them, because I think Biehn is not he's not a prima donna about things. He's like, okay, I got you. I understand why. I'm good. I really like Michael Biehn. He's a very, I guess, underrated actor. I guess
he was on a roll for like 5 or 6 years, and I think he became an alcoholic.
I've heard that. I don't know. I think he has some sort of genetic deficiency or something now that he can't.
No,
go ahead.
He fell and hit his head.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and he's kind of not all there, I think, now.
I think someone shared an Michael Biehn AA thing, or rather, he was talking about alcoholism video on Twitter.
Yeah,
for some months ago.
Yeah, and then there's Nick Nolte, or not Nick Nolte, but oh god, Gary Busey. There's Gary Busey. That's man. Anytime I see him like on TMZ or something, I'm like, this is gonna be good. Let's watch this.
Well, he's awesome.
I love
Linda
Gary Busey.
Linda Hamilton, I think, is bipolar.
Yes.
A lot of stuff going on with the Terminator cast.
There is. Okay, so yeah, we get that whole scene where she gets in and he licks her, and then it flips back to John and Arnold, and I'm just saying Arnold because it's easier than saying T-800. These guys don't have names. So
well, actually this one gets the name Uncle Bob.
Oh yeah, that's true. He does. But they pull over, and John says, I gotta call and warn my foster parents. They may be dicks, but I gotta warn them. I mean, so I guess you can see right here that he is inherently and at heart a good kid. He is concerned about these people that we thought he completely hated and stuff. He wants them to, be safe. So he has some compassion, and he calls them. And again, this is where we get to the dog part, that it's only ever touched on in all these movies. And it isn't till much later in other movies that they actually explain why. But he calls, he talks to who he thinks is his foster mother, and the foster dad comes in and says, hey, shut up. Tells the dog to shut up because the dog's just barking off the map. Tells him to shut up and says, hey, I thought you told him to take that dog or something like that. And as she's talking to John, you just see her switch the phone from one ear to the next, and you hear this thump. I had a magazine that was all the behind the scene photos and all the different things on how they made this movie. And there's a scene where it shows the blade through his mouth.
Yeah, he died.
No, yeah, it was quick too. I mean, it wasn't like he saw it coming.
Yeah, cutting edge technology. Really edgy.
Now the scene. Okay, so we'll just finish it up there. The Terminator hears the dog, and John says, "No, the dog's really barking," and that's when Arnold takes the phone, puts his hand on the thing, and says, "What's the dog's name?" And I can't remember what it. I think he says Ralphie or something like that, and he's like, "Hey, Janine," in John's voice. The Arnold is, using his technology to emulate John's voice. He says, "Hey, Janine, what's wrong with Wolfie?" And gives the wrong name. And Janine, the Terminator, goes, Nothing's wrong with Wolfie's just fine. When are you going to be home? And he hangs up and he says, your foster parents are dead. Just
you know what he should have done there though.
Hmm.
He should have said in 3 hours, because then the Terminator would have stayed there for 3 hours.
At this point, I think he's just figuring they're gonna book it. His mind is we're getting out of town, which we right after that we find out the whole thing.
Oh, and we're also told that the T-1000 can copy people he touches.
Yes, anything he touches. Well, what happens to the people he touches? Normally they terminated or whatever he says, you know, or normally the subject is terminated.
Yep.
The sample subject, I can't remember the exact words, but yeah, he basically says anybody he touches is pretty much going to die. Going back to the scene where you see the after he hangs up and the Terminator now knows that he's been found out, and you see they go and show the foster dad. That scene where the blade is through the guy's mouth is a Stan Winston prop.
It's also through the milk carton he was drinking.
Yes, which is
it's
brilliant.
Grim as heck.
Oh, it is. This movie's got some pretty violent looking things, but so that's a Stan Winston effect there. And then when it drops him, when it comes out and all of that, I think that's the actor who falls. It's done so well that you don't know when what is. And then that's when, you know, this is really cool when he watches the blade go back to the hand, and then you see, and again, the way they do this is this lady was shorter than Robert Patrick. So it's like when he morphs back to the police officer, he kind of takes a step to the side and it raises up. And again, the way it's done, it's like, wow, that's cool. Because now we've seen him go from liquid metal to himself. Now we've seen him go from somebody else to himself again. So again, you're just getting blown away by all this stuff. Yeah. So
then John tells the Terminator not to kill people, because he almost killed some people that try to stop him.
John, this is a part where John tells him they're going to go get his mother, because that's the next logical target. Is what the next logical target would be Sarah Connor, and that's, I think, when he tells John, you know, what happens to the sample of the and that's when he says we got to go save her, and he's like, negative, that, you know, that would be a predictive, you know, the Terminator would know we would do that. That's predictable. And that's when he starts hitting him and, you know, whatever. And then I think Arnold takes him and lifts him up or something. And that's when the two guys come over and they try to get him off of John.
Yeah, John tells the Terminator to let go, and the Terminator does.
Yeah.
And he tells him, you know,
why'd you do that?
He has to follow the orders.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the guys show up, and then John says, you know, grab the douchebag or something. And
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He slams him into the car and pulls his gun and almost shoots him in the head.
Yep. And he's like, whoa.
Yeah, don't kill people.
I'm a Terminator.
Why?
Yeah. Because it's just not nice. Why? the whole reverse roles, the Terminator being more like a kid with the why. So funny. You know, we totally passed by the scene of how he gets his clothes and all that, but I don't really care. That's fine. That's not necessary.
Beats up some bikers and takes the clothes.
Yeah. So they go, he says, I order you to go. And so he's like, okay, fine, I have to. So they go pull up to the guard shack, and he gets out, and he shoots the guy in the legs, and he says, I thought I told you not to kill him. He says, I didn't, or something. And he tells him, I didn't. He opens up the gate. They go in. We get another very similar scene to the behind the hall scenes from the mall. This is a very similar scene.
The T-1000 has already arrived. He's killed one of the guards, who is played by a twin, because those twins are in Gremlins 2 as well.
Yep. The scientist
that's
twins.
How they did that one.
Yeah, and that's
needle through his head, basically.
Oh yeah, and just holds him there. Like, and if I remember right, he's shaking. Like, the nerves are like.
Yeah, he's twitching.
And again, that's another Stan Winston prop. I think it's the actor who's on it, but it's they put a thing through his that it's all that's practical, that part of it. But I think that's cool. Again, now we see him as the floor, and the guy walks on the floor, and that's how he copies him.
Yeah,
and that's really cool.
Sees basically himself pointing at him, and then finger just extends through his head.
Then he goes in and he just knocks, and he's a police officer. They don't question it. John,
they just know the guard, right?
That's right. I forgot he was the guard in that point. So they just let him in because he's obviously assigned to that location. At this point, Sarah has picked her locks. She gets out. The door's partially open. That orderly that licked her sees it's partially open, looks in there. She's not there. He turns around and he gets his clock rung, his bell rung pretty damn badly. She breaks the freaking mop handle.
Yeah, she beats the crap out of him.
Yeah, and then she takes his billy club, and he's out of it. And then so she takes off with the billy club and the keys. Does she have the keys? No.
She grabs Silverman.
Yeah. Well, not yet, because she goes, and this is where the pace picks up pretty quickly on this chase, because she grabs the billy club, throws or drags him into the cell, locks the cell with his keys, throws the keys, and then takes off or puts him in the broom closet. I can't remember which. I think she puts him in the cell. The Terminator, the T-1000, goes by the cell, and that's when the guy's starting to come to. And he knows now that Sarah's free, and this is where she's running down the hall, going to the elevator. She clicks the elevator.
No. She grabs Silverman first. Smashes his leg with a billy club and takes some bleach or something into a syringe, stabs it in his neck, and has them give her the keys.
That's right. Thank you.
And then she runs away and breaks the key in one of the doors. People, Silverman and the others are chasing her. She gets to the elevator.
That's when Arnold comes through.
Yeah, she runs back because she freaks out.
She falls and she falls
then
down.
Come with me if you want to live.
Yeah, and that's when the Terminator, the T-1000, comes through the bars while the others are running around, because they have to run around.
Yeah, they're no. They get through and attack Arnold, and he beats the crap out of them, and then the T-1000 shows up.
Well, yeah, that's right. And they tackle her because she's seen him, and she's on the floor backing up. That's when they get on her. The female cop gets up and hits Arnold where his glasses, as they always do, get destroyed, and he just turns his head back and throws her up against the glass and the bars, and she of course gets knocked out. And that's when Silverman sees him, and
And then he sees the T-1000 walk through the door.
Exactly, and that's kind of when he kind of gets it.
Yeah.
He kind of understands what's going on now. I think if there hadn't been a third movie, you pretty much just said he got it. He understood this was all real. But in the third one, they kind of make it sound like he thought it was all a dream or something. Yeah, he says, "Come with me if you want to live." They get, again, firefight ensues. They're running to the elevator. Again, all the different things you see the T-1000 doing this, going through the bars, which is funny because, he has his gun and his gun doesn't make it through. So he has to turn it and pull it through. They get into the elevator, and of course, he shoots his arms through, and you see the hooks come up. He pulls them apart, and they shoot him. He falls back, and then he jumps on top of it and stabbing it. And again, like I said, this is very reminiscent of the mall scene. They get into a car, they run. He tries to catch up with them, and as they're going out of the lot, he's hanging off of the back of the car, and I think it's Sarah jumps in the driver's seat or takes the wheel, and Arnold gets out of the, climbs out of the window and then shoots the claw, and it breaks, and he goes flying off.
Yeah, and Sarah has also been slashed by him a bit.
Yes.
When he's stabbed through the elevator roof.
Yeah, that's right. John takes the piece of the claw, throws it off here too, which is kind of cool because when the T-1000 comes up to that part, you can see in his shoe that there's a piece of him missing. And when he steps on it, it comes and it forms up the rest of that shoe. It's kind of really a cool scene to watch. So they decide they're going to head south. And she has friends down there and stuff like that. This is presuming this. It's where she went after the first movie.
Yeah, and this is where Arnold tells her, Judgment Day is still happening.
Yeah.
It wasn't prevented, and it talks about Cyberdyne, who's in charge of it. Sarah gets paranoid with good reason.
Oh, we skipped past the part where they go to the gas station.
Yeah, they go to the same gas station as in one.
Well, the second gas station they go to, the one they stay in overnight, is not the same. It's the one that they stop in on the way down south.
Yeah, the one they stay in overnight is in the director's cut.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's very quickly in this one because they show her getting patched up in the original cut. It's the part with him that they don't show, where she actually takes out the processor to reset him, or no, they take out the it's something to do with him being more human, I think.
Yeah.
They're doing something. They had to take the processor out and reset him. And as she does it in the director's cut, she has it. She has a hammer, and she's like, I can kill this thing right now, because she has a problem with him. John doesn't know that. John doesn't understand that because he never faced him before the other way. So he convinces.
They reset him so he can start learning things himself.
Yeah. And John, basically, this is where John shows his ability to lead and to put his foot down, because he tells his mom no and explains this is the only way we're going to live, because he's the only thing that can fight this other thing. So again, the scene with Arnold is done with a prop on one part and Arnold, but as the funny thing in this is people don't know is Linda Hamilton does have an identical twin herself. So the part where she's being stitched up is her identical twin in the mirror, or no, the part where they're fixing Arnold is her identical twin, working on Arnold on a Stan Winston prop. So yeah. In fact, the scene where I don't know if it's in the actual cut, is the first scene. No. So there's a scene where she sees the world destroyed, and that scene, I think it's in the director's cut also, she sees her younger self. That's her sister playing her younger self, and they're both in that scene too. Interesting fact. Okay, so they go south. They stop, like you said, they do stop, and the kids are running around, and they talk about how they don't know that the end of the world's coming. Are we going to survive? All that stuff. But they stop at like you said, the same gas station as in 1. I think it's also in 3.
It's in 4 as well. They blow it up.
Yeah, exactly. It's in all of them except for Genesis and Dark Fate. Although I have not double checked that, but it was in the first 4. That's for sure. They get south. They're trying to work on this truck, and they have all the little things in between John and the Terminator, getting along. And the voiceover, I think, is, that, Sarah basically is saying in her mind, this is the only thing that's really been a father to him, and he'll never leave. He'll never go. He'll never stop. All that stuff. But she wants to end it. So, again, when we talked about the Terminator 1 and the scene where they cut out where she's talking about going and ending it there, I think that would have been more poignant to leave in, because this scene is the same thing. She's like, I should have done it then. I'm going to go do it now. I'm going to end it. And
the Terminator has extensive files
mm-hmm.
on the guy who created Skynet, basically.
She says she wants to know everything.
Which is Miles Dyson.
Yes. So she runs off, and they're like, where's she going? And the guy says, I don't know, said something about ending it or whatever. And John knows what she's going to do. This is also where we hear there's no fate but what we make for ourselves line, which is not exact to the first movie.
No, it's a bit different.
Yeah, they kind of tweaked it to work better overall. Sarah, the strong, the dark years or whatever, all that stuff. I can't remember exactly what they said. I think he says the future's not set, was how they put it.
Yeah.
But in this case, there's no fate but what we make for ourselves, which, whatever. And that's the line in the dialogue that he uses in the dream, which is why they cut it out.
Yeah.
And, so she starts going, and they go to follow her. Somehow she ends up there a lot earlier than they do.
Yeah, because she leaves earlier.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like I think that they know where she's going pretty quickly, and I think that the car is running, so I'm not sure exactly. But anyways, she gets up there, she has the rifle out, and has laser set, and she's going to kill Miles Dyson. He's working on the research in his house, and the kid's playing with this. Oh, that's a monster truck. But he's playing with this monster truck, and he sneaks up on his dad and hits his dad's leg, which he bends down to get the truck. That's when she shoots. He knows something's up. She shoots him in the shoulder.
Yeah, she empties her rifle first, then walks in, shoots him in the shoulder, and then the kid starts protecting his dad, so she can't do it, and then
she breaks down.
Arnold and Connor shows up.
Yeah, and she breaks down. She's like, I can't do it. You know, she just has another mental episode right here. And they go exposition, blah blah blah. Cool scene where he cuts his skin off and rips it off. Stan Winston prop again, pointing out the fact that you don't have to use CGI.
Yeah, it looks completely real.
Mm-hmm. Even when he rips the skin off of it, that's a Stan Winston prop.
Yeah, that's when they basically proved to Dyson that Terminators exist, and he has seen that hand before.
Yeah,
he has the hand from the Terminator 1 at his office.
Yeah, so the mother is freaking out. His wife is freaking out when she says, like, oh my god, but he's sitting there looking at it going like, oh shit. And they go through the whole thing of, well, wait a minute, if the future isn't set, then we're making the future right now. And he says, that's it, we're going to destroy it. They destroy everything in the house, and then he says, well, we have to go and destroy the workplace.
Yeah, they need to make sure nobody follows up his work.
Mm-hmm. And again, we kind of skipped over the whole scenes with him and the part where they show the chip and the arm. But that's not really anything necessary until this point where he actually comes into play. They set charges up. Police come, and you have a scene with Arnold who uses smoke grenades and stuff like that. Well, first he goes and he uses he puts the mask on the John and Sarah, and the halon system goes off.
Yeah,
firefight.
SWAT team shows up, led by the brother-in-law from Breaking Bad, who is also in Total Recall, actually.
Yep. They do the Arnold goes through and shoots them all in the kneecap and stuff like that, like disabling them, but doesn't kill them. And he goes and he just takes out all the police, but then he scans and nobody's dead. And so he kept he's following his orders.
That scene I thought was how the heck can he scan that? I mean, there's explosions everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
People behind the exploding cars could have died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's hard to tell.
Yeah, but that scene for a while after this movie was the most expensive scene in movie history for the longest time.
Because of all the cars?
Yeah, well, all the explosions of the building, all of that was, I can't remember how much it cost, but at that moment, and I think for a year or a couple of years after that, it was still the most expensive scene in history. I can't remember what knocked it out, but we see they get away in the SWAT vehicle from, if I remember right,
it's the one the SWAT team arrived in.
Yeah, but is the T9 is the T1000? I know he's after him, but does he actually get to them in that scene?
Actually, no. The SWAT team shoots Dyson first.
Yeah, they shoot Dyson, and then he's
sitting there holding the detonator.
And and by that time they're leaving, and he breathes his last breath, drops the detonator, and it all blows up. The T1000 comes, drives up the fire escape in the bike, which that's kind of cool. But he jumps out of the window and jumps onto the helicopter, breaks into the helicopter, and oozes into it, takes over. Well, first off, he looks at the guy and says, "Get out." Yeah, which the guy does. I mean,
same line Arnold has in the first one when he takes the trailer.
Yep.
Sorry,
yeah. So they do that, and now we're into the scene where the crew of this movie basically walked out on camera. The whole helicopter scene, they were told by the stunt people that it was severely dangerous and foolish to shoot. The part where he goes under the bridges and stuff, you know, on the highway. Cameron was basically told, don't do this. Somebody's going to die. And this is where he lost his temper and said, screw all of you. And he basically single-handedly had a few people with him and shot those scenes himself. You can look it up. The crew basically, with the way that the stunt people were talking about it and all that, they thought it was a suicide mission. Somebody was going to die doing it. But he got the scene, and I guess you could say that the way that that's done would be, it was a great scene. I mean, you know, with the way that the helicopter, because the way that he's flying that helicopter, he's very much targeting his mission. He's like, I'm going to get you. If he had flown over the bridges and stuff, maybe it wouldn't have looked so.
Yeah, he's actually flying under some very low bridges, and there's barely room for that chopper.
Yeah, so that does show more determination than if he were to fly over it.
Yeah,
I mean, it just shows he's blind to everything.
That one could have gone bad. So
and that was the whole point.
Yeah, while the result is good, I think I would have agreed with the crew. Yeah, but he did it anyways, and he got the scene, and I guess that's all that matters, I guess, to him. They have the firefight, and then ultimately Arnold just stops the SWAT vehicle and destroys the helicopter along with the SWAT vehicle. Sarah's pretty badly injured at this point. They have to help her to this little freaking S10 truck with a huge doghouse on the back. She gets shot through the leg during the chase scene. And I think the whole chase scene, though, is pretty much a copy of the one from Terminator 1.
This whole movie, in the long run of it, is a copy of 1, but done just different enough that it doesn't come across. Again, there's a lot of homage paid to 1 with this movie. And so anyways, they get in the doghouse vehicle and then the Terminator gets out and gets into a semi that's filled with liquid nitrogen. Yeah. And they go and he slams the truck, they drive the truck into the factory and crash. He loses control. It breaks open. He gets out. The liquid nitrogen's all over the place, freezes him. And yet they're also at a steel factory, so there's a lot of heat there. And Arnold picks up his grenade launcher and looks, and he's like, does he say he'll be back?
No.
Okay.
He tells them to hurry.
Yeah, because he knows
liquid metal melting again, right?
Oh no, he shoots him. Hasta la vista, baby. He shoots him, and then he sees that it's melting. And he's like, hurry. And so they run through. Pretty similar to how the first one is, except for there's one difference. Sarah and John get separated. The Terminator gets to Sarah and pokes her.
No, he fights Arnold first and traps Arnold's arm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He stabs him, and you think he's dead.
A wheel thing. No. That's even later. But Arnold is pinned in that wheel first, and Arnold gets a metal bar and uses it to pry his armor apart.
Yeah, no. You see, because the bar is what he uses against the Terminator first. The Terminator, he gets pushed, fights Arnold, and then his arm gets stuck. Then he takes the bar and stabs it through his torso.
No, because Arnold is left behind while trapped. The T-1000 catches Sarah, while when he's almost about to kill her, Arnold shows up from behind with the pole and slashes him in half, basically. And then they fight, and Arnold gets impaled.
I thought it was the other way around, but that's fine. I haven't watched this recently. You just watched it, so
yeah. There's 2 fights basically.
Yeah, and so that happens. You think Arnold's dead. Sarah gets away, but she's been copied, which she was already technically copied the first time. See
that scene, I think, is a big plot hole because he's basically torturing Sarah.
Yeah.
Telling her to call for John. He doesn't have to do that.
No.
He can just kill her and call for John himself.
Well, yes, and at the same time, she's not his target. So perhaps... I understand what you're saying. It is absolutely a plot hole. I don't know. You're right. It is a plot hole.
Yeah, because the foster parents weren't targets either.
Yeah, but the question is, I don't know why you would think that Sarah would do it. That's kind of the big one right there. Is why would she even do it?
All he had to do was stab her through the head, copy her,
and
call John himself.
Which again, like I said, she's already been copied because he's already touched her. So
yeah,
there are several of those parts right there. So she gets away, or I can't remember. She can't move very well, whatever. And so you hear her voice say, John, John. And he goes to her. And that's when, again, we have her and her sister, Linda Hamilton's sister, and her in this scene. That's both of them. And I can't remember what she says to John to make him know for sure. But I think
just tells him to get down.
Mm-hmm. And she unloads her shotgun into him and gets him right on the edge of this railing, which conveniently has no rail right there, which I don't know why, but whatever.
Safety issues.
Yeah. We don't need the rail right here because it works best for us if there's no rail here, even though O should be coming down on him right away. So he shoots her, or she shoots him and runs out of bullets, at which point he heals and he puts his finger up and shakes it. And then Arnold comes up on the conveyor belt and says, get down.
Yeah.
And he shoots his final grenade into him, which again splits. When it explodes, it splits him in all different directions, which that is another Stan Winston prop. And he falls off and falls into the molten steel, which
that scene I never liked because he's splashing around in the lava, basically molten metal, and
that shows. Go ahead.
Yeah, to see all the people he's copied and shit, and he's like panicking. I don't.
Yeah,
that's not robot-like behavior.
No,
like screaming.
Yeah, he's screaming and panicking and like he's hurting.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make any sense. And I mean, it looks like a cool scene, but yeah, you're absolutely right. They could have shown all the faces without all the flailing. They could have done all of that without the flailing and the noise. But I think Cameron later on came out and said he's not screaming. That's the sound of the metal, twisting and rubbing against itself as it's melting, I think is what he said. I know.
His mouth is open.
Yeah, I know. But because moments later when Arnold does it, he just goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And there's
so
no middle stuff when he goes.
yeah. Yeah, so basically, they go through the whole, I know now why you cry. And they lower him in, and
Yeah, it's because at first they toss the Terminator arm that
that's
took the
right.
gun and the chip, and then Arnold says,
One more
"There's
chip.
one more chip. It's in his head."
Yep. And John kind of loses it. He doesn't want to do it. And he hands the conveyor control to Sarah.
Yeah, because he can't self-terminate.
Well, not just because of that, but because he knows she'll do it.
Which is odd because he self-terminates in Terminator 3.
Again, I could explain that one away with he puts the core into the other Terminator, so he's technically terminating another Terminator, and he's just a casualty of that. It's not actually doing it himself to himself. Yeah, thin. I know that's thin, but
I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right, but you can make the case.
Yeah,
but yeah, he knows she's going to do it. If he'd given it to John, he wouldn't do it. So, if I remember right, it just shows him going blank then.
And this is why they should have kept the scene where they modify his brain, because if you haven't watched the director's cut, all we know is that he has to do whatever John says. So if John says no, he has to go no.
Yeah.
That's why that deleted scene is actually very important.
And yeah, so then
actually without that scene, you have a plot hole.
Yeah, that's true. And like I said, I think they should have kept that. I mean, I love the director's cut with all the extra stuff in it.
Yeah,
I like it. Kind of corny, and signs of how corny it will get later on in the third one. He puts the thumbs up as he's going in.
Yeah, but the ending is a very good one. And I think the series should have ended there.
Well, and to Cameron's point, it was supposed to. He had started work on 3 himself, and then I think he decided he wanted to do Avatar more, if I remember right, and that's why he left the project. But they still held the rights, so they went forward with it. John Stahl, I think was what his name was, that played John in Terminator 3. Nick Stahl, that's right, Nick Stahl. Him and Edward Furlong were actually good friends, and Edward Furlong was supposed to, like I said earlier, was supposed to come back, and he was just wasting his life away. And he says, he was so distraught that he didn't take that part because it was offered to him. He was so distraught he didn't take that part that he never went to go see the movie, he said. And it wasn't until years later that he did. And him and Nick were friends, and he said, my friend, I think he did a very good job.
Yeah, Nick Stahl wasn't bad in it.
No, I mean, I like T3. I mean, there are parts that are kind of cringeworthy, but I like it. I mean, I like all these movies, and I can remove myself from all the problems with it because it's all about time travel, and there are so many timelines technically that are going on that even Dark Fate to me could be completely separate from everything else we saw. And I know some people don't like it. That's fine. They're allowed to not like it. I don't have a problem with that. The very last, John and Sarah are driving down the highway, or at least we assume they are because we just see the highway. And she says, the unknown future rolls towards us. I face it for the first time with a sense of hope, because if a machine, a Terminator, can learn the value of human life, maybe we can too. And you're absolutely right. There's no reason not to stop it right there.
Yeah.
You're not saying that they've stopped everything, but you're not saying they didn't. You're leaving it open to the viewer to decide what happens.
Yeah, it wraps up the story perfectly. I mean, if a franchise does that, leave it alone. Come up with something new.
Exactly.
Which they can't do.
No. This unfortunately, this property has been saturated, like
Oh,
so
yeah.
many things now.
Yeah, this one has been.
And like I said, I like all the movies.
Yeah, even if the later ones have, well, they're bad. They're still
nowhere near. Yeah, they're nowhere near the same movie that the first two were. And they slowly lose touch with everything. 3 kind of holds on to the whole idea, but then the whole purpose of 3, honestly, to me, was we still need a reason that we can still make more. So they had to bring back the option of Judgment Day.
Yeah,
that's the whole reason for 3.
Yeah,
and then that gave them Salvation, that gave them Genesis, that gave them Dark Fate, and Salvation is a standalone. I mean, you could put a different name on that and just and
it was supposed to be a trilogy.
Yeah, I know. And
then Genesis was supposed to be a trilogy.
Yep.
And then Dark Fate was supposed to be one. I mean,
well, Dark Fate, I don't know what
they actually have a trilogy of canceled trilogies.
Yeah, and they'll try again. They'll come up with something else. They will. Now, the thing is are they going to get Arnold? Every time, the only one that hasn't actually had Arnold in it was Salvation. And Salvation used a stunt double, a body double for him, and then CGI'd his face on, which is very obviously CGI'd.
Yeah, but it wasn't that bad either.
No, it wasn't.
It was actually better than what Tarkin looked like in Rogue One.
Oh, I don't know about that. Tarkin, I liked Tarkin, but that's another story, another day. Yeah, they'll bring back another Terminator movie. I just don't know if Arnold's going to be in it. Arnold was promised for Terminator 3, he was given his own private jet, gifted a private jet to come back. They spent more money, if I remember right, on him than the rest of the cast combined by quite a bit, because they knew the only way to make 3 work was with him.
Terminator Genesis is actually, and Dark Fate is actually the reason why we haven't gotten King Conan. Because they made the studios pull out of that project because Genesis and Dark Fate failed. So they were going to make King Conan after Genesis, and then that one failed. So they
I don't know why they pull out of that, though, because that has him. He's not the reason why the movies did bad.
No,
I don't ever understand why they pull out of projects because of a bad movie. It's like, is it him? Was it him? No, he plays his part perfectly. He plays the Terminator. He's fine.
It wasn't the writing.
Exactly. Right, there you go. Always goes back to the writing. I mean, blame the people you need to blame. Let's get to this. Let's do 1 out of 5 for you, 1 out of 5 for me. You got any other trivia?
I first saw this movie on Laserdisc at a friend's place.
Yeah.
Watched it in his couch, and I was blown away. I loved it.
I saw it first in the theater, but I remember watching it at a friend's house on Laserdisc multiple times because I didn't have a DVD player. I think it was after that I got it on VHS. But
what was the first DVD you ever bought?
First DVD I ever bought? You know, what's funny is I could tell you what the first CD I ever bought was. I'm not sure about DVD. I want to say the first DVDs I ever got was the original trilogy of Star Wars, unedited. I had the unedited. I had them on VHS, like the back in the 80s version.
Yeah.
I had the THX fix for it on VHS, and the special edition, the gold edition, on VHS. And then I went and bought the DVDs of the THX fix and the I bought the THX fix of Star Wars. I think was the first 3 DVDs. I bought the trilogy. I think that was it. So,
I think mine was Deep Blue Sea.
Ooh, yeah, I got that one. But yeah, so
cheesy, stupid movie, but it's fun. Deep Blue Sea is kind of awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so 1 through 5.
4. I'm talking for. I thought the ending was a bit messy with those plot holes. granted, the director's cut fixes one of the plot holes.
Mm-hmm. That's
but
true.
I thought like I said, the T-1000 basically panicking when it's in the metal and all that, and the Sarah Connor scene where he should have just killed her and copied her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm docking a point for that, because if they hadn't done that, it would have been a perfect movie.
Yeah.
But those are so obvious, kind of. I feel like it's almost like they got sloppy at the end in a way.
I think they just went cheap on it and decided people will just let it happen.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to get stick for that, but I'm giving it a 4.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same. A little trivia for 3. Linda Hamilton was supposed to be in it, but they were going to kill her character off, literally just kill her off and then continue the movie without even acknowledging the importance of her death. So she said
kind of like Hicks and Newt.
Yeah, she basically said no. Her character was too important to just write off like that. So I think if she had died in 2, it would have made a much bigger impact and saved us from Dark Fate.
I thought it would. It might have. When she runs out of ammo.
Yeah.
If he rushes to T-1000 and tackles him into
that would have worked too.
Yeah.
I'm giving it 4 out of 5 also, very much for some of the similar points you made. I love this movie. It's one of the best sequels ever. But like I said, throughout this whole time, it pays homage to 1 so much because it's so similar. It's just different enough. But I'm going to dock the point because of that, because it is literally a carbon copy of 1. So that's why. That's 4 out of 5 from Stig, 4 out of 5 from me. That gives us a 8 out of 10. That's how we do the ratings here, guys. We were up to an hour and a half. That's a little longer than normal, but we won't go the full 3.5 hours about this movie.
We did the director's cut.
Yes, we did. All right. So so we're going to be back here. I think the next one we're talking about doing is Total Recall.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll do Total Recall. And with that said, guys, Stig, tell everybody where you're at, where they can find you, all that good stuff.
That I don't like to do.
Yes. Exactly.
Tiny YouTube channel thing. I don't care about subs or anything. Just do it for fun or peer pressure, really.
Ducks.
Other than that, I'm on this channel talking about movies, or on Christy's channel talking about movies on Saturdays. And Game of Thrones stuff on Sporking's channel. That's usually what I do now.
Yep.
So lots of nerdy stuff. I'm just a nerd from Norway who likes to talk about stuff like that. Nothing
nerdy
special.
Norwegian.
Yeah, nothing fancy at all.
No, but a great guy, guys. Go follow him on Twitter. Go look at his videos. You don't have to sub, but go look at the videos. He's got some fun stuff there. He's got some plagiarized stuff too that he got away with, that he'll admit to.
Oh yeah, I put up. I think it was a He-Man episode. All kinds of cartoons. Nobody minded.
No,
so I just did it.
What's funny is I talked to John Celestri, who is one of the animators and directors for Filmation, who did He-Man. I've had him on my channel several times, actually. He's a pretty cool guy. So maybe one time I'll have you on so you can talk to him.
Well, to be fair though, it does say that I can't make money from those videos.
No.
But they sure as hell didn't tell me to take them down. So
that's fine. That's how it works here at YouTube land. So I'm Chris Knight. I'm up to like over 3,000 subscribers. So I made my mark for the setting for September. So guys, I'm wanting to hit a new mark. That mark's going to be 5,000. Guys, please consider helping me out with that. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. Go check out Patreon. That's patreon.com/TRR3K. I have a PayPal donation link down there if you want to help out the channel. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, on Twitter at chrisknight5150, all that fun stuff, guys. Thank you for watching again. Thank you, Stig. I appreciate it, and we'll be back soon. Say goodbye.
Goodbye there.
Goodbye.
Hey guys, thanks for checking us out. Be sure to subscribe to both channels. And make sure to check out our friends in the Fandom Minutes. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and BitChute. And you can also send us an email at sean@seanstackhousereacts.com and chrisknight at therealreview3000.com. Be sure to swing by our Teespring store to pick up some awesome merchandise.